Hey everybody, Brandon here, welcome back to another tournament game video. Today we're going to be covering the Hamilton Summer Open. And I am playing in round 1 against Vincent, who's a good friend of mine. And I'm playing with the white pieces. So, let's get into the game. We see e4, c5, the Sicilian, knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, and now a6, the Najdorf. There's lots of moves here. There's h3, there's a3, there's bishop g5, bishop e3, bishop e2, f3, whatever. I go into bishop g5. This is what I knew the most of at the time, so it's what I opted for. And after bishop to g5, e6 is the best reply here. Where after f4, there's a few branches. There's like a poison pawn variation, and then there's also bishop e7. I'm more happy to see bishop e7. Then we see queen f3, queen c7, long castles. This is all very, very theoretical. Knight bd7, g4 here, b5, and bishop takes f6. So the idea here is we're going to be playing g5 and then f5 and trying to create a kingside attack. Knight takes f6 is the proper move. G5. So the reason why knight takes is more important. It looks like bishop takes is the same, but there's actually problems with knight d takes b5, I believe here, where then taking on d6 is possible, and then e5 comes as well. So like let's just say like queen a5 takes, and then like e5 for example here would just be a huge problem. This is just one of the examples of what can occur very, very easily out of nowhere. By such a simple choice where it feels like bishop takes and knight takes don't really have a difference. There is actually a pretty big one. So knight takes f6, g5, knight d7, and if one doesn't know theory here, they might be surprised by the next move, but it's a very interesting one. f5. And again, this is all okay for white. And the idea is that we lose a pawn, but it's temporary. We pretty much by force win the pawn back. Or if they try to keep it somehow, then they're just going to be losing more material. So bishop takes g5 check, king b1. My opponent made a mistake with bishop f6. Bishop f6 isn't really the right approach. Normally you see knight e5 here. And what could follow is queen h5 and some sort of defense of the bishop, usually queen d8 or queen e7. Both are okay. You'll see h4, bishop f6, and then after taking, the best thing to do is just a castle now, because you can't take back, because this is the point importance of queen h5 specifically, is now knight takes e6 is a problem, because of the pin against the king here. So that's a key variation to point out. Bishop f6 is a little ill-timed. It feels natural, but it's not correct. And that's because of this move, f takes e6. There's a lot of variations to look at, but f takes e6 works because after knight e5, I did some calculating here, and I noticed that knight d5 is very strong, very annoying as well. I ended up not following it up correctly, because I was just rushing my moves and just playing fast, which was very silly of me. I had a lot of time on the clock, and there was no reason to do so. I could have easily spent a lot of time here. And I could have, like, I spent a little bit of time on knight d5, but I did not spend enough time on my move after queen d8. But let's go into some of the variations and why this is so far working for us. So knight takes f3. Is important to look at. Knight takes c7, king d8, knight takes a8, and there's two variations. There's knight takes d4, and then there's bishop takes. Of course, there's other moves too, like maybe they take on e6 or something, but those are less challenging. because as we can see here, rook for rook, knight for knight, bishop for bishop, knight for bishop, and then we can see that we're just up a full rook at the moment, so they kind of have to take back on d4. But the truth is, there's not really a great way to do so. Even if they take back, as long as we can get our knight off of a8, then we are up a piece, or up an exchange. But if they don't do anything, then of course we're up a rook. So there's two variations. Knight takes d4 is one, but knight takes d4 we can happily take on f7, and then eventually we play knight b6 to d5. So that's kind of already solved. But the other variation that might be a little bit harder to see is what if bishop takes? Because now knight b6 is impossible. But that's okay. We just have bishop e2 here. And after bishop e2, the knight's attacked. The bishop is under attack as well. And it doesn't matter that we're probably going to lose our knight on a8, because we're going to be winning either the knight on f3 or the bishop on d4, which are more valuable than the knight on a8, because it's not really doing anything. Alright, so they can't really take on f3, and because of that, they have to move. I ended up opting for knight takes f6 and queen takes f6, which is just not smart at all. This is very silly. There's a better variation of just taking on f7 and going queen b3, which is not that difficult to see. If you spend just a little bit of time, you can immediately see there's already huge threats. Knight takes f6 is also a threat. There's knight c7 or knight b6 trying to pick up the rook. We can just develop naturally, like bishop e2, and bring a rook to the f-file. This king is never safe, and it doesn't make sense to trade queens. So this was a huge oversight by me, because I didn't spend any time on this move. And after knight takes f6, queen takes, g takes, bishop h3. After everything was traded here, I thought, yeah, maybe I have a slight advantage, but things have dissipated, so my morale was quite low at this point. Knight c7, rook a7, knight d5 check. So just rerouting it to d5, which is a strong square. King e6, knight f4 check. I just wanted to prevent f5. And then I brought a rook to g1 to try to infiltrate. Rook f8 to prevent the infiltration, which is a good move. Rook g3, f5, and I played rook g7 check. Actually, a much stronger move here is just rook h3, where if rook f7, now we can take, because if they take, rook takes h7 is possible. Rook f7, and knight d5 check, king d7, and actually rook h6 offers a pretty big advantage, because we can move the knight, and d6 is extremely weak now. But I didn't play this. I played rook g7 check, rook f7, knight d5 check. I was expecting them to go to the back rank, but they didn't. They played king e6. And here, yeah, I maybe could have tried for a little bit of something with e takes f5, but I saw some ghosts in my calculations, so I believe I was offered a draw around this point from king e6, and after knight f4 check, I just accepted it. I forget specifically if I offered the draw or if I accepted it. I'm pretty sure I accepted it, just because I saw some ghosts in this line of e takes f5, king takes f5, and rook f1 check. I thought, like, if they try moving up the board, that this could be a problem, but it's actually really not. We have knight c3 check, king e3, rook g3, for example. Looks very promising, and we can play moves like rook d1 check as well, and just slowly go after them. But yeah, not really the most inspiring game, clearly, which is unfortunate, and we're gonna see another few more uninspiring games from this event. And I think this was like the tournament that was like the straw on the camel's back, where it broke it, because I know, again, I was playing pretty fast over the last few events. I was playing really bad games that maybe weren't uncharacteristic of my play, but were definitely things that I shouldn't have been messing up on. I feel like I was totally capable of working things out, but I just didn't spend the time to do so. When you're given like 90 minutes in a chess game, you should use as much of it as you can without, having heavy time pressure or anything. So, yeah, that was actually something that I started to work on almost immediately after this event. But that was round one. Ended up in a draw when I definitely had a few chances to win. But it was a good learning lesson because although it ended up as a draw, there were, again, some key things to take away, not only from this game, but this event. So I'll see you guys in round number 2. Have a good one. Bye-bye.